What if the person who betrayed you, the stranger who smiled at you on the street, even the illness you've battled inside your own body, wasn't separate from you at all? What if every single experience in your life, the victories, the heartbreaks, the patterns that never seem to change, was you, reflected back to you, perfectly, mercilessly, beautifully? This isn't poetry. It isn't a metaphor. It's the hidden blueprint of reality. Ancient mystics knew it. Hidden manuscripts whispered it. And now, modern science, quantum physics, neuroscience, and psychology, is beginning to stumble on the very same conclusion. You live in a universe where separation is an illusion. And the truth is shocking: everyone you encounter is you, pushed out. Pause for a moment and let that settle. That argument you replay in your head. That friend who disappeared without explanation. That partner who treats you with love, or maybe with contempt. None of them exist in isolation. They are mirrors. They are fragments of your inner world, wearing faces you recognize. If this sounds impossible, that's because you've been trained to believe otherwise. Since birth, you've been taught to divide reality into categories: me and you, us and them, good and evil, victim and villain. You've been told that the world is something out there that you must fight against, conquer, or survive. But what if that story is wrong? Imagine walking into a house of mirrors. You look around, and all you see are countless versions of yourself, stretched, distorted, multiplied. At first, you think they're other people, strangers watching you. But then the realization hits: they were always your own reflection. The world you walk in every day is just like that. Ancient Hermetic philosophy captured this in one simple phrase: as within, so without. Neville Goddard gave it modern language: everyone is you pushed out. But here's the part they didn't teach you: once you know this, you are no longer powerless. If everyone you meet is a reflection of your inner state, then your boss doesn't control your destiny. Your circumstances don't dictate your future. The universe itself bends to the assumptions you hold in the silence of your mind. The implications are staggering. Wars, relationships, chance encounters, all projections of consciousness. The entire fabric of society, a dream generated by collective belief. And if that's true, if every person, every event, every barrier is you reflected outward, then you have to ask, who are you, really? Because if the world is a mirror, then you are not merely a character trapped inside it. You are the source of the projection. The projector itself. And that realization is where the journey begins. In the next chapter, we'll uncover why this knowledge was hidden for centuries, buried by religions, suppressed by governments, mocked by modern institutions. We'll see how the illusion of separation was carefully designed to keep you asleep. And we'll explore the ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science that prove, you are not just living in the universe is living in you. For thousands of years, human beings have sensed that there is more to life than what the eyes can see. Hidden behind the surface of ordinary experience, there is a blueprint, a map of reality that explains why things happen, why patterns repeat, and why certain people seem to orbit your life no matter how far you run. Every culture touched it. Every mystical tradition preserved fragments of it. But over time, the map was torn apart, its pieces scattered, and the knowledge deliberately hidden. In ancient Egypt, priests taught initiates the principle of correspondence: as above, so below, as within, so without. In the Jewish mystical tradition of Kabbalah, reality was described as a tree, infinite levels flowing from the unseen world of spirit into the material world of form. In Hindu philosophy, the Upanishads whispered that Atman is Brahman, the self and the universe are one. And the Gnostic Christians, before they were silenced, insisted that the kingdom of God was not a faraway place, but within you. Different languages. Different symbols. The same truth. But then came the age of control. Empires realized something dangerous: if people understood they were the source of reality itself, they could no longer be ruled. So knowledge was restricted, rebranded, or buried. The Roman Church turned mystical truths into rigid dogma. Monarchs claimed divine right, as if power came only from above, never from within. And centuries later, industrialists like Rockefeller designed school systems to train obedient workers, not awakened creators. Instead of learning that imagination shapes destiny, children were taught to memorize facts. Instead of being guided to master their inner world, they were taught to fear authority, chase approval, and fit into systems already designed for them. The blueprint was hidden in plain sight. The map of reality replaced with maps of geography, economics, and politics. And you were told the world out there is more real than the world in here. But even in the darkest times, the truth never disappeared. It lived in whispered traditions, secret societies, and the rare teachers who dared to speak it. In the 20th century, Neville Goddard shattered the silence. Standing in small lecture halls, he declared something radical: imagination is not fantasy. It is creation itself. Everyone is you pushed out, he said, not as metaphor but as law. The events of your life, the people who surround you, even the circumstances you call fate, are shaped by your assumptions. To the average person, this sounded like madness. But to those who had glimpsed the hidden map, it was liberation. Think about it. If imagination creates reality, then prayer is not begging some distant deity for help, prayer is aligning yourself with the state of already having it. If every person is a reflection of your consciousness, then your relationships are not accidents, they are mirrors, revealing the stories you believe about yourself. If the universe itself responds to your assumptions, then destiny is not fixed, it is fluid, waiting for you to direct it. And here is the shocking part: modern science is now circling back to what the ancients always knew. Quantum physics shows us that observation collapses possibility into reality. The double-slit experiment reveals that particles behave differently when watched, as if consciousness itself shapes matter. Neuroscience confirms that the brain cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and physical ones. And psychology demonstrates that we project our inner states onto the world, attracting experiences that match our expectations. Science is beginning to rediscover the forgotten map. But here's the key: maps are useless unless you follow them. Knowledge alone does not transform. What transforms is direct experience. So let's test it. Think of the last time someone treated you with disrespect. Maybe they ignored your needs, dismissed your worth, or belittled your ideas. Did you notice what happened inside you? The story you told yourself about who you are, not enough, not valuable, not respected, was quietly running in the background. And that story drew to you an external reflection of itself. Now imagine changing that inner assumption. Imagine living with the unshakable belief that you are worthy, loved, and powerful. Imagine carrying that state into every room you enter. Do you think people would still treat you the same way? Or would the mirror shift? This is the doorway into the deeper law. The map of reality doesn't just explain history. It doesn't just explain why empires and corporations tried to keep you asleep. It explains the mechanics of your everyday life, why cycles repeat, why certain people show up again and again, why your greatest struggles often reflect your deepest wounds. The truth is simple. You don't meet people. You meet states of consciousness. You don't attract experiences. You attract reflections of yourself. And once you see this, once you realize that everyone you encounter is you pushed out, you will never look at the world the same way again. Because you'll understand, you were never just walking through reality. Reality was walking through you. Stand before a mirror, and you know the rule: if you frown, the reflection frowns back. If you smile, the reflection smiles. You can shout at the mirror, scrub it clean, even smash the glass, but the reflection always obeys the source. Life works the same way. Every person you meet, every situation you encounter, every pattern that repeats, is a mirror. Not of the surface self you present to the world, but of the assumptions, beliefs, and feelings moving deep inside you. This is what Neville Goddard meant when he said, "Everyone is you pushed out." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing the law. Think of the last time someone cut you off in traffic, or dismissed your opinion, or ignored your needs. Your first instinct might have been to blame them, their bad attitude, their selfishness, their ignorance. But pause. Look closer. Did their behavior reflect an inner story you already carried? A story of being overlooked? A story of being disrespected? A story of never being seen? The mirror never lies. It only reflects. This is why changing the outer world while ignoring the inner is like scrubbing the mirror while refusing to wash your own face. You can spend years fighting circumstances, begging others to change, rearranging the external world, and yet, the reflection snaps back. Because the projection never came from out there. It came from you. Science has given us strange clues to this principle. In the famous double-slit experiment, light behaves like waves of possibility, until observed. The moment observation enters, possibility collapses into form. As if the universe itself is a mirror, responding not to random chance, but to consciousness. In quantum entanglement, two particles separated by vast distances still mirror one another instantly, faster than the speed of light. Change one, the other shifts, as if they are reflections of the same source. And in psychology, Carl Jung described projection, the tendency to see in others the qualities we cannot accept or acknowledge in ourselves. Hate someone's arrogance. Perhaps it mirrors the pride you suppress. Envy someone's confidence. Perhaps it reflects the strength you've forgotten in yourself. The principle is everywhere. But only a few recognize it. Let's bring it down to earth. Imagine a woman named Sarah. For years, she feels invisible in her workplace. She works hard, gives her best, yet colleagues and managers overlook her. She believes she isn't valued. She carries this silent story with her: I don't matter. I'm replaceable. And so, her world reflects it. Meetings where her voice is ignored. Promotions given to others. Praise directed elsewhere. But one day, Sarah dares to test the law. She begins, in imagination, to live in the feeling of being respected. Every night, she closes her eyes and sees herself receiving recognition, hears the applause, feels the pride of being valued. Weeks pass. Slowly, subtly, reality shifts. A colleague praises her work. A manager begins to notice. A promotion opens. Did the outer world change first? No. Sarah's inner assumption shifted, and the mirror followed. Now imagine this on the scale of your entire life. Every relationship, every encounter, every so-called accident, all mirrors. Reflecting you back to yourself, not to punish you, but to reveal where your consciousness truly dwells. This is why the law is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating, because you are no longer at the mercy of chance. Terrifying, because the mirror shows no mercy. It reflects exactly what you assume, whether consciously or unconsciously. And this is where most people resist. So you're saying I caused my pain? My struggles? My heartbreaks? Not caused, but reflected. Not guilty, but responsible. The mirror holds no judgment. It only shows. Once you understand this, blame dissolves. There is no one to fight against. No enemy to destroy. Because the enemy is always yourself in disguise, pushing you to recognize what still lives within. And here's the paradox: when you stop fighting the mirror, the reflection changes. This doesn't mean you become passive, accepting mistreatment. It means you stop wasting energy on smashing glass. You go within. You shift the assumption. And then, inevitably, faithfully, the outer world shifts. The mystics knew this. The sages of India described the world as Maya, illusion, not meaning unreal, but meaning reflective. The Gnostics said the material world was a shadow of higher dimensions. The Hermeticists taught, the universe is mental. But perhaps the clearest way to grasp it is the dream analogy. Think of last night's dream. In it, you may have met strangers, faced challenges, felt joy, or fear. Yet when you woke, you realized they were all projections of your mind. The villain. You. The lover. You. The landscape itself. You. This waking life is no different. Only the scale is larger. The rules more consistent. The dream more convincing. But still, everyone you meet is you. Pause, and let the weight of that sink in. What if the person who annoys you most is a part of yourself asking for recognition? What if the partner who loves you deeply is mirroring the love you've begun to carry within? What if every friend, every stranger, every foe is simply your own consciousness wearing another face? Suddenly, the world becomes less of a battlefield and more of a classroom. Every reflection is a lesson. Every encounter, a revelation. But here is the question that cuts to the core: if the world is a mirror, then who are you, really? Are you just the small self, the personality, the name, the story? Or are you something greater, the dreamer of the dream, the source of the reflection, the projector behind the screen? This is where the mirror principle leads us. Because once you understand that the outer world reflects the inner, the next step becomes unavoidable: exploring the higher dimensions of the self. Dimensions where time, space, and identity collapse into something stranger, deeper, freer. And that's where we turn next. Most people live their lives like ants walking across a page. They see the line in front of them, they see the line behind them, but they cannot see the whole page. They think reality is that single line, that one direction of movement, that simple cause and effect. But what if your life is not just a line? What if it is a canvas, a multidimensional structure, and your consciousness exists in more layers than you were ever taught to believe? This is the secret of dimensions. We've been conditioned to think of dimensions as something only mathematicians and physicists discuss. We imagine sci-fi movies, wormholes, or complicated equations scrawled on a chalkboard. But in truth, dimensions are simply ways of perceiving reality. They are frameworks that explain how much of the whole you are able to see. The first three dimensions. Let's start simple. The first dimension is a single point that moves to form a line. The second dimension is that line moving to form a square, or a plane. The third dimension is that plane rising into depth, creating space as you know it. You can move forward and backward, left and right, up and down. That's the world you've been trained to believe is the limit. But here's the catch: even in these first three dimensions, perception changes everything. A two-dimensional being living on a sheet of paper cannot imagine the third dimension. To them, a sphere passing through their world would appear as a dot, then a growing circle, then a shrinking circle, and then nothing. They would never know the sphere was whole, they would only see slices of it. Sound familiar? That's us. Right now. We see slices of reality without realizing there's a bigger shape we cannot yet perceive. The fourth dimension, time. The fourth dimension is time. You already move through it, but you don't control it. You feel trapped in its current, watching events unfold one after another like beads on a string. Birth, childhood, adulthood, old age. You say, "This is my life." But is it really? Or is it just the slice you're perceiving? Imagine holding a DVD disc of your favorite movie. The beginning, middle, and end are already encoded on the disc. Yet when you press play, the scenes unfold one by one. You laugh, you cry, you feel suspense, but the truth is, the entire story already exists. That's how time works in higher dimensions. What you call past and future already exist. You are simply moving through them, frame by frame, like the character inside the movie. And here's the twist: if you could step into the fourth dimension fully, you would not only see your past and future laid out, you could choose where to land. Like skipping to a different chapter on the disc, you could shift into a new timeline. This is the true meaning of manifestation. Not creating from nothing, but selecting from an infinite field of possibilities. The fifth dimension, parallel realities. Now we go deeper. The fifth dimension is the dimension of choice, of probability, of parallel versions of reality. You felt it before, that sense that you could have chosen differently. That eerie, what if, when you wonder how your life would have unfolded if you had taken that job, confessed your feelings, or walked away at the right moment. Science calls them alternate universes. Mystics call them infinite selves. But both are pointing at the same truth: all possible versions of you exist simultaneously. Picture a tree. From the trunk grows 1,000 branches, each splitting into smaller branches, each sprouting leaves. That's your life in the fifth dimension. Every choice you make is a branch. Every path you didn't take still exists as another branch. You are not a single self, you are a multidimensional being spread across a forest of possibilities. Everyone is. This is why the mirror principle is so powerful. When you meet another person, you are not only meeting the reflection of your inner state, you are brushing against another version of yourself from the tree of existence. Sometimes they mirror your fears, sometimes your strengths, sometimes the path you didn't choose. They are not random strangers. They are you, pushed out across dimensions. The sixth dimension, the completed map. If the fifth dimension is the forest of branches, the sixth dimension is the entire completed tree. Every possibility. Every timeline. Every version of you. Imagine holding not just a DVD of one movie, but a shelf containing every movie that could ever exist, all based on the same characters and settings but with different outcomes. One where the hero wins, one where the villain wins, one where everything collapses, one where everything thrives. That's the sixth dimension. It is the full spectrum of your potential reality. And here's where things become extraordinary. The ancient mystics said, when you awaken to your true nature, you stop being a single character trapped in one storyline. You become the director, the scriptwriter, and the dreamer of all timelines. You realize you were never confined to one path. You could always shift. This is why synchronicities happen. It's why strange coincidences guide you. When you raise your awareness, you are literally sliding across the sixth dimension, pulling yourself into new versions of reality where doors open, people appear, and paths reveal themselves. The higher dimensions beyond. But the map doesn't stop there. Physicists speculate about 7th, 8th, 9th, and even higher dimensions. Each step adds new layers of possibility, new structures of consciousness, until eventually you reach a dimension where all universes, all laws, all realities collapse into one. Mystics call this source. The place where everything comes from. The place where nothing is separate. The place where everyone, and everything, is truly you. Why this matters? You may be wondering, why does any of this matter if it's so abstract? Because once you see reality as multidimensional, life stops being random. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance. You stop believing the story that you are trapped in one narrow line. You realize that everyone in your life is not just a stranger or a coincidence. They are messengers from other layers of your own being. They are fragments of the same whole, mirrors of your state, travelers on nearby branches of your cosmic tree. Every argument, every heartbreak, every challenge suddenly becomes an invitation to shift dimensions. Every act of kindness, every moment of love, every step of courage becomes evidence that you can move into higher timelines where more of your true self is expressed. This is not philosophy. This is mechanics. The mechanics of consciousness. The realization. So pause for a moment. Think of the last time you felt powerless. The last time you thought, this is just the way things are. Now, imagine instead that you were simply standing on one branch of the tree. Imagine that all around you, other branches are waiting, branches where the problem is already solved, where the pain has already transformed, where the opportunity has already opened. Imagine that by shifting your inner state, your beliefs, your emotions, your vision, you could leap to that branch. That is what higher dimensions make possible. Everyone is you, pushed out. Every version of them is part of every version of you. And every dimension of reality is waiting for you to wake up and claim your role, not just as a character, but as the dreamer of the dream. Cliffhanger ending. But here's the paradox. If every reality already exists, if every version of you is already alive in some dimension, then what makes this moment so important? Why did your consciousness choose this timeline, this body, this version of events right now? The answer reveals the true secret behind why you came here at all, and why forgetting this truth may have been part of the plan. And that is where we go next. If the truth really is this simple, that everyone you meet is you, reflected, then why don't more people know it? Why aren't children taught this in schools? Why isn't it written in every textbook? Why isn't it carved into stone monuments across the earth? Because the secret was never meant to be common knowledge. It was too dangerous. It dismantled hierarchies. It toppled empires. It destroyed the illusion of control. And so, for thousands of years, those in power worked tirelessly to bury it. The early custodians of knowledge. Long before organized religion and centralized governments, shamans, mystics, and sages understood the mirror of reality. They saw visions in altered states, they listened to dreams, they read the stars. They taught their tribes that every person encountered was not separate but part of the same living web. But even in those times, leaders discovered a problem. If people believed everyone was a reflection of themselves, they could no longer be ruled by fear. You couldn't divide them with threats of us versus them. You couldn't control them through shame or guilt. And you certainly couldn't convince them to hand their power to kings or priests. So a shift happened. The keepers of knowledge became gatekeepers. The teachings were sealed away, hidden in coded symbols, passed only to initiates. What was once open wisdom became secret doctrine. The rise of religion. As civilization grew, religions formed. Some carried echoes of the original truth. The mystics and prophets who dared to speak said things like, "The kingdom of God is within you," or "I and the Father are one." But these messages were dangerous to institutions. They pointed people inward, not outward. They gave people sovereignty instead of dependence. So the message was twisted. The divine was placed outside of you, in a temple, in a statue, in the hands of priests. You were told you were separate from God, separate from each other, separate from the universe. Heaven was put far away, and hell was used as a leash. The mirror principle, the knowledge that you are the source, and that everyone reflects you, was branded as heresy. Those who spoke it were silenced, exiled, or worse. Entire libraries of mystical texts were burned. Whole traditions were erased. The political machinery. Then came empires. From Rome to monarchies to modern nation-states, the same pattern repeated. The ruling class needed obedience. And nothing creates obedience like separation. If you believe your enemy is truly other, you'll fight for your rulers. If you believe your neighbor is less worthy, you'll work harder for scraps. If you believe your power is outside of you, you'll kneel without question. Divide and conquer wasn't just a military tactic. It was a metaphysical one. By dividing your perception, by keeping you blind to the truth that everyone is you, the system conquered not just land, but consciousness itself. The corporate age. Fast forward to the modern world. You live in a society where billions are spent every year to convince you that you are not enough. That someone else has what you lack. That someone else defines your worth. Advertising thrives on separation. It whispers, "Look at them. They're happier, richer, more attractive. Buy this, and maybe you'll catch up." But if you understood the mirror principle, if you saw others not as competition but as reflection, the entire system would crumble. You would stop chasing. You would stop consuming blindly. You would realize the wealth you envy is a sign of your own untapped abundance. The beauty you admire is your own radiance. The power you fear is your own strength. Can you see why this truth is suppressed? A person who knows everyone is them pushed out cannot be manipulated. And mass manipulation is the foundation of our world. The tools of suppression. How do you hide something so natural, so simple, so obvious once seen? You use three main tools. Ridicule. Teach people to laugh at it. Label it, woo-woo, crazy talk, pseudoscience. Make people fear embarrassment if they even consider it. Distraction. Flood their minds with noise, endless news, gossip, entertainment, crises. Keep their attention outward, always chasing, never reflecting. Distortion. Allow fragments of the truth to leak out, but twist them. Package them in ways that make people dependent, gurus who demand worship, movements that replace one separation with another, self-help that keeps you chasing instead of finding. In short, they didn't erase the secret. They buried it under ridicule, noise, and distortion. The forgotten within you. Yet despite all this suppression, the truth has never been fully lost. Because it isn't only in books or teachings. It is written into your very being. Haven't you felt it? That eerie synchronicity when someone mirrors exactly what you're going through. That unshakable sense that the anger you project comes right back. That flash of recognition in a stranger's eyes, as if you've met before. Deep down, you already know. Children know it before they're taught otherwise. Mystics rediscover it in silence. You've glimpsed it in dreams. The suppression works only if you forget to look inward. But once you remember, the illusion collapses. Why forgetting was necessary? Here's the paradox: as much as rulers, religions, and corporations benefited from suppressing the secret, there's another reason it was hidden, and it's far more mysterious. Forgetting may have been part of the design. Think about it: if you were born already knowing you were source, already knowing everyone was you, would the game of life mean anything? Would relationships matter if you instantly knew they were just mirrors? Would growth exist if there was nothing to rediscover? The forgetting creates the drama. The suppression creates the challenge. The very act of not knowing makes the journey of remembering powerful. So perhaps, in a strange way, those who tried to bury the secret were playing their role too. They mirrored humanity's fear of its own power. And now, as more and more awaken, the suppression itself becomes proof of how valuable the truth really is. The cost of suppression. But let's not sugarcoat it. The suppression has caused immense suffering. Wars fueled by division. Hatred fueled by illusion. Generations taught to see themselves as powerless, as victims of forces beyond their control. Billions exploited because they didn't realize the mirror was within them. The cost is everywhere, in broken families, in greed, in endless cycles of fear. All of it stemming from one lie, the lie of separation. The whisper returning. And yet, the whisper is returning. Through ancient texts resurfacing. Through science hinting at interconnectedness. Through everyday people having awakenings, sharing stories, spreading seeds of remembrance. The suppression is cracking. The internet, for all its noise, has allowed hidden truths to travel again. You, listening to this, are part of that crack. You wouldn't be here if some deeper part of you weren't pulling at the thread. The secret is rising again, unstoppable. Because consciousness itself is evolving, and once an idea's time has come, no amount of suppression can bury it. Cliffhanger ending. But there's still a question: if this truth is resurfacing now, at this point in history, why? Why here? Why you? What is it about this moment that makes remembering so urgent, so critical? The answer lies in the final part of this journey, the destiny hidden within you, and the reason humanity is awakening now. And that is where we go next. There comes a moment in every story where the hero realizes the weapon they were searching for was never out there, it was always within. Humanity is reaching that moment now. For thousands of years, you've been told you are small, that you are fragile, that you are just one insignificant person in a vast, indifferent universe. But the truth you've been uncovering flips the script. Everyone is you, pushed out. The mirror is not your enemy. The reflection is not your punishment. It is your key. Once you understand it, you awaken to a power that has been sleeping inside you since birth. The first step, radical responsibility. Awakening to power begins with a shift so simple, yet so rare, taking responsibility. Not in the shallow sense of, blame yourself or, carry more weight. No. True responsibility means recognizing that everything you experience, every friend, every stranger, every triumph, every heartbreak, is arising from within you. It means no longer asking, why is this happening to me, and instead asking, what part of me is being shown here? The person who annoys you isn't proof of their weakness, it's a mirror for your unhealed impatience. The opportunity that appears out of nowhere isn't luck, it's your own alignment reflecting back at you. Responsibility is not a burden. It is liberation. Because when you see yourself as the cause, you realize you are also the cure. The power of state. What you call reality is nothing more than your dominant state of being reflected outward. Change the state, and the world changes with it. Think of it like a radio. The station you tune into determines the music you hear. Tune into anger, and you meet angry reflections. Tune into abundance, and opportunities appear. Tune into love, and love surrounds you. The mirror has no choice. It cannot resist. It only reflects. Awakening means realizing you can change the channel at any moment. Not by forcing the outside world to bend, but by shifting your inner frequency until the world has no choice but to match. The second step, dissolving victimhood. For centuries, you've been conditioned to think of yourself as powerless. Governments want obedient citizens. Corporations want obedient consumers. Even families and schools, often unknowingly, train you to obey, to shrink, to doubt your inner authority. But awakening dissolves victimhood. Once you see that every external force is a mirror, the game changes. No more enemies. No more saviors. No more waiting for someone else to fix what you see. You understand that every challenge is a reflection of your own state, inviting you to rise higher. This doesn't mean ignoring injustice or denying pain. It means approaching it with new eyes. Instead of fighting shadows, you transform the source of the light. The power of revisioning. Here lies one of the most practical tools of awakening, revisioning. It means looking at someone or something not as it appears, but as you intend it to be. If someone is hostile, you revision them as kind. If an opportunity seems closed, you revision it as open. If your own reflection in the mirror seems weak or doubtful, you revision yourself as powerful, steady, unstoppable. This isn't delusion. It's cause. The outer world must eventually align with the inner vision. When you practice revisioning, you stop reacting to the current reflection and start directing the next one. The third step, aligning with desire. Desire is not your enemy. It is not greed. It is not selfishness. Desire is your compass pointing you toward higher timelines. When you long for freedom, love, health, or abundance, it is not because you lack them. It is because some version of you already has them, and the desire is the echo calling you forward. Awakening to power means no longer suppressing your desires out of fear or shame. Instead, you embrace them as clues. Every desire is evidence of another dimension of you waiting to be claimed. The trick is to hold the desire without clinging. To live as if it is already so, even before the reflection changes. In that state, the world bends toward your vision. The courage to see yourself everywhere. This is perhaps the hardest part, to see yourself in those you admire, and in those you despise. Awakening is not selective. If everyone is you, then even your enemies are you. Even the villain is you. That doesn't mean condoning harm. It means understanding the mirror. What you resist most fiercely is often what you must heal within. The tyrant outside reflects the inner dictator of your own self-doubt. The betrayer outside reflects the part of you that abandons yourself. When you dare to see yourself everywhere, you stop being afraid of shadows. They lose their power over you. You integrate them. And in doing so, you unlock compassion, not the shallow kind, but the deep knowing that there is no other to hate. The power to shift timelines. Now, with responsibility, vision, and compassion in hand, a new power awakens, the ability to shift timelines. Remember the tree of possibilities? Awakening is how you move from branch to branch. When you embody a new state, you literally step into a different version of reality. The people around you may seem to change, opportunities may appear, synchronicities may flood in. It feels like magic. But it is simply mechanics. The key is persistence. The mirror lags, just as your reflection in water takes a moment to settle after you stir it. If you shift your state but immediately collapse back into old habits, the reflection reverts. But if you hold steady, if you persist in your chosen vision, the outer world must catch up. It cannot resist. The final step, living as source. All of this points to one truth: you are not a fragment of reality. You are reality. You are not a powerless observer. You are the source, pretending to be a person for a while. Awakening to power means walking through life with this awareness. When you see someone suffering, you don't only see their pain, you ask, what within me calls for healing? When you see beauty, you don't only admire it, you recognize it as your own reflection. When you face obstacles, you don't crumble, you see them as invitations to rise into the version of yourself that already exists in a higher dimension. This doesn't make you arrogant. True awakening breeds humility. Because if everyone is you, then kindness to others is kindness to yourself. Cruelty to others is cruelty to yourself. Separation dissolves, and love becomes the natural state. The ripple effect. One awakened person changes everything. Because when you shift your state, your reflection shifts, and those around you feel it. Families transform. Communities soften. Even strangers are touched without knowing why. Awakening is contagious. Not because you preach, but because you embody. Your presence becomes a mirror others cannot ignore. They begin to remember. They begin to awaken too. This is how revolutions are born, not through violence, but through inner transformation that ripples outward until the old systems collapse under the weight of collective awakening. The return of power. So here you are. At the edge of remembering. You've uncovered the map of reality. You've seen the mirror principle. You've glimpsed higher dimensions. You've learned how the secret was suppressed. And now, the question is no longer whether you have power. The question is whether you will claim it. Because awakening is not something that happens in the future. It happens now. With every choice, every state, every reflection you accept or revision. The mirror waits for your command. Cliffhanger ending. But there is one final mystery. If you are source, if you are the dreamer of the dream, if everyone is you pushed out, then why did you enter the dream at all? What is the purpose of playing this game of forgetting and remembering? What is the destiny of humanity as more and more awaken? That is the final revelation, and it changes everything. All the threads of awakening, the mirror principle, higher dimensions, suppressed knowledge, and your personal power, converge now. You have glimpsed the architecture of reality. You have seen the mechanics of consciousness. You have stepped into the doorway of the fifth dimension. But there remains the ultimate question: why does all of this exist? Why did consciousness create the illusion of separation? Why are you here, experiencing life as a person in a world that seems so separate from you? The answer is as simple as it is profound: you are the universe knowing itself. The paradox of separation. Throughout human history, countless teachings have hinted at this truth. The mystical texts, the esoteric orders, the secret wisdom of the Kabbalah, Hermeticism, Gnosticism, all point to the same principle: separation is an illusion. Every person you meet is a facet of your own consciousness. Every circumstance, every event, every obstacle, all arise from the infinite creative potential of your mind, reflecting patterns that your consciousness is exploring. Yet, the paradox is that separation is necessary. Without contrast, without apparent duality, there would be no experience. The game of life requires tension, resistance, contrast, and illusion. The fifth dimension is not a place where separation ends, it is a level of consciousness where you experience separation as a tool for awakening rather than a limitation. The key of self-observation. If you have reached this point, you are already practicing the most important skill of all, self-observation. To awaken fully, you must watch yourself without judgment. Notice your thoughts. Notice your emotions. Notice the judgments, the habits, the assumptions that guide your perception of reality. Every moment you observe without reacting, you create a space between stimulus and response. That space is where freedom begins. That space is where you select which version of reality to inhabit. The role of emotion. Here lies the ultimate secret: emotion is the engine of creation. Thought alone cannot move mountains. Desire alone cannot shift timelines. It is the feeling of reality as already complete that collapses quantum probabilities into the tangible world. When you feel love, abundance, or power as an absolute fact, not a hope or wish, not a future projection, the mirror of reality bends to reflect it. You have already experienced this in small ways: the sudden opportunity, the chance encounter, the solution appearing without effort. These were not coincidences. They were glimpses of the mechanics at work, previews of your creative authority. Awakening to power means scaling this principle until it encompasses every aspect of life. Every relationship, every circumstance, every choice becomes a canvas upon which your consciousness paints. The nature of destiny. The final revelation is inseparable from purpose. Why did you incarnate? Why did you choose to enter the illusion of the three-dimensional world? The answer: to know yourself fully. You are not here to passively experience life. You are here to explore the infinite possibilities of consciousness. Every challenge, every heartbreak, every triumph, is a tool for expansion. Every interaction with another human is a mirror reflecting what you have yet to integrate. This is why repetition occurs. Patterns repeat until you recognize the lesson they carry. That difficult relationship, that recurring fear, that repeated failure, all exist not to punish you, but to teach you the mechanics of creation, to show you the shadows you have yet to illuminate. Integration of dimensions. By now, you understand that dimensions are not spatial locations but frequencies of consciousness. The third dimension is the world of cause and effect, separation, and linear time. The fourth dimension introduces fluidity of time, perception, and memory. The fifth dimension is the realm of unity, of the collapse of subject-object duality, where consciousness recognizes itself in everything. Integration is the key. You do not abandon the third dimension. You do not reject the fourth. You expand through them, learning to navigate all levels of reality consciously. You act in the physical world while perceiving its reflection in the higher dimensions. You participate in creation rather than being shaped by it. This is mastery. This is sovereignty. The collective awakening. Individual awakening is powerful. Collective awakening is transformative. As more humans step into higher dimensional consciousness, the mirrors shift globally. Social structures dissolve when their foundations are separation, control, and ignorance. The collapse of outdated systems is not chaos, it is the natural outcome of dimensional expansion. Humanity is moving toward a state where consciousness is recognized as the true creator of reality. The signs are everywhere: accelerated synchronicities, improbable coincidences, intuitive knowing, prophetic dreams, and collective emotional shifts. Those who awaken first serve as catalysts, rippling their expanded perception outward. Each awakened individual becomes a node in a network of conscious creation, gradually reshaping the collective reflection. The final key: remembering the self as source. Ultimately, the final revelation is simple: you are not a human having a spiritual experience, you are consciousness having a human experience. Every person, every object, every circumstance is a projection of you. The only true limitation is the belief in separation. Every challenge is a reflection. Every opportunity is a mirror. Every fear is a shadow of a forgotten truth. When you fully embrace this, the universe ceases to be a mystery. The random events stop being random. The patterns, the synchronicities, the encounters, the lessons, all of it is intelligible. Not in an intellectual sense, but in the felt, lived experience of knowing yourself as the source of everything. Living as the creator. To live as the creator means to operate from inner alignment rather than external circumstance. You no longer wait for approval, you approve yourself. You no longer wait for opportunity, you create it. You no longer fear loss, you trust the infinite nature of consciousness. This doesn't remove challenges or contrast. It simply changes your relationship to them. You no longer resist, fight, or despair. You respond consciously, knowing that every reflection is a mirror and every mirror is a teacher. The ultimate invitation. And now, the universe extends the final invitation: remember fully. Remember that you are infinite, eternal, and already whole. Remember that everything you have ever experienced was designed to guide you to this awareness. Remember that no one else holds the key to your reality, you do. The mirrors await your recognition. The dimensions await your presence. The frequencies await your alignment. Every choice you make now is an act of conscious creation. Every thought, every feeling, every action is a brushstroke painting the world you inhabit. Cliffhanger ending. But there is one final question, one truth that remains hidden until you experience it yourself. If everyone is you, projected outward, and all of reality is a reflection of your consciousness, then what lies beyond even the fifth dimension? What exists in the frequencies where all possibilities converge, where duality collapses entirely, and where the observer and the observed are one? The answer to that question is not told in any book, lecture, or teaching. It is not revealed by any master or secret society. It is experienced, directly, personally, infinitely. And when you are ready, you will discover it for yourself.